Hello, Packers fans, wherever you may be. It's time for another edition of the Pack Attack Cast, brought to you from fans for fans. We're here 5 days before the start of training camp. So excited. I will be there in Green Bay reporting for you from the first three training camp practices, as well as the owners' meetings. Very excited about that. And if you want to be in on all that action and information, please give us a subscribe and a like to this video. We're trying to get to 5,000 subs by the start of the season, and we're already at 3,050, which is great for just a couple months of streaming on this channel. So we're very excited about seeing this community grow, and you guys are all a big part of that. So what we're going to do today, and we're going to get right into it, is we have 10 Packers stats that will surprise you and get you excited about this season. I dug deep into a whole bunch of stats over the last couple days, and every time I dig deeper and deeper into the stats and the potential for improvement for this team, I got to tell you guys, I feel like the Super Bowl is right in front of us. If this team can just reach out and grab that opportunity, I'm so excited about what we have in front of us for 2025. So let's go through the top 10 Packer stats that will surprise you before the start of training camp. Number 1, the Packers were expected to win 10.5 games in 2024, but are only expected to win 9.5 games in 2025, despite being better at many positions and returning 20 of 22 starters from the playoffs last year. Actually, that's 19 of 22 starters. That's a typo there. So the Green Bay Packers in 2024 were expected to win 10.5 games. We are returning 19 of 22 starters from the playoffs last year, and we're only being asked to beat a spread of 9.5 wins. I'm telling you personally, I have bet pretty heavily that the Packers are going to beat that 9.5 win expectations in 2025, because all of the data I see, all of the metrics, everything on the roster, everything I see from the potential of growth from this team tells me 9.5 feels highly likely to be a safe bet. So I think the NFL continues to sleep on the Packers. The Packers can change this with a hot start in 2025. And if you look at the schedule, if they can win week 1 and be competitive and or win in week 2, which they should be able to do. Everybody says, well, it's a quick turnaround in week 2. Yeah, it's a quick turnaround for the Commanders, who have to actually travel to Green Bay on an even shorter time frame than the Packers. So, and the Packers, I would argue, have the best depth in the NFL right now. If you look at roster to roster, I feel the Green Bay Packers have some of the best depth in the league. So if there's any team that can handle a short week, I think it's going to be the Green Bay Packers. So if they can win those first 2 games, I think they could really roll out to a very special start of the season. Number 2, the Packers are favored in 13 of 17 games in 2025 by most of the gambling sites, despite having the 10th hardest schedule this year. So 10th hardest schedule. Vegas is favoring us in 13 of 17 games. Let's go back to the earlier point. We only have to beat 9.5 wins to beat the spread. I'm telling you, I really continue to feel 12 wins is a most likely outcome for the Green Bay Packers. I think it's going to be 11 or 12 wins for this team, barring a significant injury, and I'm very excited to see how this shakes out this season. Number 3, despite having an up and down season and having ongoing injury issues at quarterback all season, the Packers were 6th in offensive efficiency in 2024. This is also despite being number one in drops. So we had a quarterback who wasn't healthy all season last year. We had number one in drops in 2024. Not a stat any team wants to be first in. And we are still sixth in offensive efficiency. With a healthy Jordan Love and a modest improvement in drops, we could see the Packers being top 3 in efficiency in 2025. It is right there for the Packers to take. Despite number 4, despite an inconsistent pass rush, the Packers were 6th in defensive efficiency in 2024. If the Packers can make a modest improvement in their pass rush in 2025, a top 5 finish on defense is very likely. This team is really at the precipice of a great season if they just make modest improvements. The stats and the metrics tell me that despite everything that went wrong for the Packers in 2024, they still were an elite team looking at the stats. If they can improve just a little bit, this team is really on the verge of greatness. Let's go to number 5. The Packers in 2024 were 5th in percentage of drives that got to the red zone in 2024. 5th. Again, with a healthy quarterback and reduced drops, I think they could be top 3 with red zone drives. And we all know that getting to the red zone is a really key metric for winning games in the NFL. So I think the Packers are really, again, on the precipice of something really good this year, because despite the things that went wrong, they were a great offense and great defense last year. If they can clean up a few of these things, they could be a really surprise story. And again, the NFL is sleeping on the Green Bay Packers this year. Number 6, the Packers defense in 2024 was 8th in the league for percentage of opponents' drives that were kept out of the red zone. So we were 8th in the league at keeping teams out of the red zone. If we can improve a little bit, we could be top 5 with red zone defense, which is really key to winning close games in the NFL. Very excited about the potential of this offense and defense in 2025. Digging into these stats really has me enthused about the potential for really turning things around. The Green Bay Packers are returning 19 of 22 starters from their playoff lineup in 2024. Both players that were replaced, or all 3 of the players that were replaced, 2 of the 3 players that were replaced, are better starters per PFF. The Packers have more continuity than any team in the division and might have more than any other team in the league. And where they lost players, they got better, except for possibly defensive tackle, where I think they have the ability to offset the loss, either with volumes of players or will have players step up. So 19 of 22 starters, and 2 of those 3 starters were actually improved this offseason. So there's no question that this roster is going to have continuity and it's going to improve over 2024. So I'm very excited about those 2 things together. Number 8, the Packers had the 8th ranked defense despite finishing 17th in red zone defense, that's stopping touchdowns, 21st in pass efficiency of defense, and 16th in big running plays on defense. If they can clean up a few of those stats, they can easily be a top 5 defense, in my opinion. So I'm very excited about the potential for the Green Bay Packers to improve on offense and defense in 2025. Number 9, and this is something that I find very amusing. The Packers could end up being the youngest team to make the playoffs depending on the final roster. This would be the 3rd year in a row that the Green Bay Packers would have the youngest team to make the playoffs. Now, I'm excited about that. I love the fact that the general manager and the coaching staff are doing a great job of taking young talent and making us competitive. But this is a good thing as long as the team's younger players mature enough to win in the playoffs. I want to go from being the youngest team to make the playoffs to just being the best team, period. And that's where urgency, hard work, and effort is going to take the youngest team and making it the best team in the NFL. So that's what I want to see this year. So I do think it's great that we are possibly going to be, once again, the youngest team in the playoffs. But once we get there, this young team has to just become the best team in the playoffs for us to reach our goals. And number 10 for Packer stats that I found so interesting is the Green Bay Packers are $17 million under the cap for 2026. And why this is important is because the rest of the NFC North is in big trouble with the salary cap next year. Let's run through some of these numbers. The Bears are right now $4.6 million over the salary cap for 2026. Now, that's not too bad. They could probably, with a player or two, get above the salary cap. But the Bears are the second best team in the division as far as the salary cap. The rest of the division is in serious trouble. And this is why the Packers could be on a verge of a long run of NFC North championships. Because in 2026, the Detroit Lions are $41.6 million over the salary cap in 2026. That means the Detroit Lions that we see this year are going to be a shadow of themselves next year. They're going to have to shed talented players to get under the salary cap. It's even worse for the Minnesota Vikings. The Minnesota Vikings in 2026 are almost $61 million over the salary cap for 2026. That's not a typo. $61 million over the salary cap for 2026. The Lions and the Vikings are going to have to completely revamp their roster next year to be above the salary cap. So this is a significant problem for both the Lions and the Vikings in 2026. So what I envision for the Packers this year is we win the NFC North this year, and then for years after that, the Packers are going to be in such a good position with the salary cap that they can win the NFC North for multiple years after this year. And when I see TJ Watt becoming the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL, that happened yesterday, I just want to shake Brian Gutekunst's hand and say, thank you, Brian, for being so smart with the salary cap. This whole offseason, people have been saying, trade for TJ Watt, trade for Hendrickson of the Bengals. And in each situation, I've told myself that is a horrible idea because those players are going to completely screw up what is a really good salary cap situation for the Green Bay Packers. They also said, why did you let Jair Alexander go? This is exactly why the Green Bay Packers did this, because they are set up for success for multiple years after 2025 because the rest of the division has spent and spent and spent. And now the Vikings and the Lions are in a world of hurt next year, and the world is going to be the Packers' oyster regardless of what happens in 2025. And I have high hopes for 2025. In 2026 and 2027, the Green Bay Packers are in a great position to win multiple NFC North titles by managing their salary cap correctly. So once again, thank you, Brian Gutekunst, for being the smart GM that you are, for managing our salary cap correctly, while the rest of the division has been spending money like drunken sailors, and it's not sustainable. And the salary cap problems are going to come to roost for the Lions and the Vikings next year. So go Pack Go in 2025, and the future looks very, very bright for the youngest team in the NFL to make the playoffs that also has the best salary cap situation in the division. So things are looking really rosy for the Green Bay Packers in the future. Looking forward to reporting to you guys in just a couple days from Green Bay. Probably have at least one more video before we go ahead and travel to Green Bay for training camp. But I'm very excited about reporting to you from Green Bay for the first 3 practices and the owners meeting. So give us a subscribe and you won't regret it. And as always, go Pack Go.